Many parents feel caught off guard and unsure how to help their child who is struggling with food and body image issues. This video will give you tangible tips to help support your child or teen with an eating disorder. Hi, y'all. My name is Brandy. My pronouns are she, her, and I teach grown-ups and kids about food, body image, and diet culture. Let's talk about what you can do at home to support your kid in eating recovery. First things first, expectations. Having a loved one with an eating disorder requires us to redefine our expectations in many ways, but especially around food and time management. When it comes to food, I want you to think about how our relationship with food has two parts, eating and feeding. For young kids, it's their job to show up to the table, learn how to eat, and respond to hunger and fullness. And then as kids become teens, it's their job to learn how to start parenting themselves with food and by learning cooking skills, planning ahead, budgeting, grocery shopping, while also continuing to listen to their hunger and fullness cues. Learning all of this requires parent supervision and guidance for how to make up for their own eating mistakes. Eating disorders are considered a disorder of the developing mind, which means for folks with eating disorders, the ability to show up to eat and also learn how to feed themselves gets really tangled up and confused. At the beginning stages of recovery and during relapses, it isn't realistic to expect your kid or teen or even college student to plan their own meals, prepare the meal, show up and eat that meal, while also ensuring they're eating enough food to honor their fullness and biological needs. These steps require an immense amount of executive functioning skills and coping ability, particularly around distress tolerance. There is a quote in one of my favorite eating recovery workbooks that speaks volumes about this. The workbook is called 8 Keys to Eating Recovery by Carolyn Costin and Gwen Grab. The quote says, "There aren't many life-threatening illnesses where the person suffering is afraid to get well. And anyone who knows anyone with an eating disorder understands the depth and frustration of this truth." Some folks want to recover so badly, yet in the moment of fear and anxiety, it can become very overwhelming. They need compassion, support, boundaries, and firm love to get through these moments. In my experience, I've discovered a few strategies that can help make meals more joyful and peaceful for folks with eating disorders. Because anxiety, fear, uncertainty, and insecurity haunt pretty much every meal that feels out of their control, creating a bit of structure around the meal can serve as an emotional security blanket. For example, parents and caregivers are in charge of serving meals and snacks at predictable and reliable times on about an every 2 to 3 hour cadence. The increased meal times means less pressure to eat large amounts of food at once and reduces bloating and other GI distress that can impede appetite and hunger. Creating pre-meal rituals like setting the table, putting on music, giving thanks, additionally, including deep belly breathing exercises and using weighted lap blankets, all can be calming. Anxious bellies aren't able to eat as well as calm bellies, so keep that in mind. Create post-meal routines like clearing the table, washing dishes, putting away food. Sure, grown-ups do this often, but involve your kids and teens if they aren't already. Even if they complain, being expected to help around the house actually increases a sense of love and belonging and self-esteem. Additionally, it is very important to have shared expectations for during the meal. Family meals where the kids and teens feel like they're being watched every moment and are being forced into discussions about homework, relationships, and grades, it's probably not going to go too great. Just heads up. But especially for these kiddos with eating problems, because not only are they trying to navigate the family dynamics, they're also having this pretty intense internal dialogue that is running on overdrive that they're trying to manage as well around their own anxious thoughts and feelings about food, whether or not to eat, how much to eat, to not get in trouble or raise suspicion. It's exhausting. So during meals, don't talk about food. Don't talk about eating. Don't talk about what you're eating. Don't talk about anybody's body. Avoid school and homework and relationships like the plague. And don't talk about anything medical or already gross or disgusting. Just going to put that out there. However, if they bring it up, and then you just nod and say, okay, that's interesting. And then let's talk about this later after we're done eating. Instead, consider using conversation cards or play simple card games like Crazy Eights to provide a pleasant distraction away from the fact that they're eating. Now, we, or folks who don't have an eating disorder, usually really enjoy food, don't have a problem showing up, getting excited about what we're going to have. That's not an expectation that you can hold for these kids and teens who are suffering with an eating disorder. That part of their brain is usually not turned on, and instead it's replaced by a lot of fear and worry and obsessive thoughts. So whenever a kid does need a redirection to eat more food during a meal or stop moving food around the plate, it helps to identify phrases or even code words that they feel okay with you using. For example, I had a client who felt okay if one of their parents gave them a direct phrase like, let's keep eating, but preferred a question from another parent like, would you like to change the music? This music question cued them to focus on whatever music was playing in the background because that distraction helped them to eat more food. Another client preferred their grown-ups to ask about what they were thinking, and it helped to talk about their food worries in the moment before they could actually eat. Some people, usually younger kids, really like being read to, and this idea tends to work well when it takes them a long time to finish a meal, particularly if there's multiple people in your family and everyone else has finished or left the table and they're sitting there trying to finish their meal. So having a grown-up or a sibling hang out and read to them while they finish up can be a nice bonding experience and just take the pressure off. Now, some people do need more than 15 to 20 minutes to get through a meal. And if that's the case for your kid or teen, cap the table time to about 30 to 45 minutes. And please patiently sit with them the entire time. Whatever it is your kid or teen needs will be up to them and may change every so often. Working with your child's dietitian will give you more information on what and how much to serve your child, as well as other mealtime support tips. Expectations of time. So in my previous video, my kid has an eating disorder. Now what? I talked to you about eating disorder treatment options. At the outpatient treatment level, your kid will be meeting with a dietitian and therapist at least weekly and other specialists on varying schedules. Though virtual sessions make these appointments more accessible and easier to get to, they still require like 2 to 4 hours each week, plus treatment homework and goals that will need to be done between sessions. Depending on the age of your child, they may need help getting to the appointment or your presence in that appointment. Typically, kids 12 and under have their parents present with them for the whole session or for part of the session. Ages 13 and up will depend on what the teen wants. Because of this, your work schedule may need to change to accommodate all the new medical appointments you'll be going to now. And if you haven't seen my video called My Kid Has an Eating Disorder, Now What? Please go check it out. And you'll learn all about eating disorder treatment, levels of care, and how to get started with that. Some kids and adolescents, usually those who are 14 and under, may benefit from a family-based treatment approach, which will require a lot of parental involvement from all parents and caregivers. This process involves a primary parent being in charge of and present at each meal and snack, which is about 4 to 6 times a day, and coaching their child through each meal and snack. And even if not doing a family-based approach, it is not realistic to expect your kid or teen to be in charge of planning, prepping, deciding what meals and snacks will be and when to eat them and how much without compassionate supervision and parental involvement. Many kids and adolescents, depending on the type of eating disorder and the severity, may be asked to reduce or stop extracurricular activities like sports and dancing in order to focus on recovery. This isn't a forever thing. However, it can be really important because even though exercising can be beneficial, when having even a moderately severe eating disorder, it can cause significant heart and organ tissue issues and has been shown to contribute to thyroid and other metabolic disorders later in life. Not everyone will need to stop exercising. This is going to be a treatment team decision based on how much your kid is able to eat and make up for that expended energy in the midst of their eating disorder urges. Now, let's talk about a truth here. Your kid or teen may not actually want to stop their eating disorder behaviors. That's super normal, and eating disorder specialists know how to work with this resistance. Having a family member struggle with an eating disorder is just as traumatic and heart-wrenching as watching a family member go through cancer treatment. The only difference is that we have culturally given people with cancer more permission to honor the pain and suffering involved. Do not underestimate an eating disorder diagnosis. This disease will challenge your own deeply held beliefs about food, eating, weight, and body image, which leads me to my third expectation for you. Don't do this alone. Yes, your kid is the one in treatment. Yes, you have an incredibly busy life. And yes, you need to prioritize your own learning and your own mental health. It's very hard to help your kid when you have unaddressed anti-fat bias and diet culture beliefs. And yes, even if you don't diet and love your body, you still have anti-fat bias and diet culture beliefs because you are a product of our society and culture, and these myths are interwoven into the fabric of our state and federal policies, our medical system, our school system, and media. In short, it's everywhere, and not knowing how to recognize it will put you and your kid at risk for relapse in the future. This is something that they will be taught how to recognize during their treatment programs, but isn't something that they will be able to help you do. You will need to do this work alongside them and on your own. To do this, I encourage you to read and learn as much as you can about diet culture, health at every size, intuitive eating, and of course, eating disorders. If you want a shortcut, I've created a course just for parents and grown-ups called Embodiment, a parent's guide to body image. You'll learn all about diet culture, how it shows up in day-to-day moments that cumulatively impact your child's self-esteem and body image. But most importantly, you're going to learn how to address it with your family, teach them resiliency skills so it won't impact them as deeply, and also learn how to support your child and adolescent in cultivating a happy, thriving, embodied life. Check out the link below for this parenting masterclass and sign up today. For more resources to learn about eating disorders and diet culture and how you can help your kid in their eating recovery journey, please see the links below, as well as like and subscribe to be notified when more videos come out. Thanks for hanging out with me today. See y'all later.